So we're now on step 15, and step 15 we need to use very similar components to what we used in step 13 and 14, in which case we've got the servo tray, as they call it, and the rods and things. But in step 15, this talks about putting the rear of the axle without the servo, but if you remember rightly, I'm going to go with the four-wheel steering option. So I've got my additional servo, which is here. I've mounted the same way as I did in the previous steps too, and I've put in the B6 components as well, just to space that off so it's ready for me. We've got 6 of the BA5s, which we have here. It says use one of the 3x22mm screw, but we need the additional 2 because we're putting the servo onto the tray. So I've actually got 3 of those. We need a 3x20mm, which is this screw here, BA3, but we're going to need a slightly longer one, so we're going to need the additional one here, because we'll be attaching the servo together. So the BA6s, the BA5s, 3x15mm, I've already discussed. They go in the various places. We've also got a couple of the BA6 3x12mm screws. They're going to be used in this section here. We've got our 6mm ball nut. We've got 4 of those. 3mm washers, which is BA12, and a couple of the BA12s, which is the 3mm locking nuts. Sorry, the washers were part of the, again, attaching the additional servo. So slight change here. We're going to add the additional servo, and it's very similar to the steps 14. So let's do this in 2 halves. The rods as well are slightly changed, because on the rear here you need rods B and C. Rod B is the 113mm one. That is as per step 14. But we use the B, the rod before, with the 51mm spacing, because we want to do the servo, rather than using rod B, which is 78mm spacing. So we'll leave that one for now and revert back to having the 51mm one, which is as per the previous step in step 13. So there, we're going to pop this all together. So again, in a couple of halves. So let's take the servo tray. I call it a servo tray. A couple of the 12mm, 3mm by 12mm screws. They're going to go in those ends there, and we need to pop a little bit of thread lock on here, because we need to pop the ball connectors on here, as we did before. This is our rear axle, and as you may remember before, take our rear axle. This is going to go at the orientation of the axle, with the output shaft facing where it is. This is then going to go with these 2 ball connectors facing downwards onto those parts there, and we're going to secure with 3 of the 315mm nuts and thread lock. So 2 screws on this side and 1 over on this side. Okay. Okay. So I actually just realised this one needs to come out, because we are going to use our servo mounting in there instead. So let's pop our servo onto there as well. and we'll get our rod that we need. Remember, this is the 51mm rod that we need, and we need to pop that in there. And then we need to take 2 of these 22mm ones with a couple of the washers. Nicely. Okay, here you are. There we are. So now we need to pop the ball joints and things on now as well on top of here. So we need to the ball joints need to go in this section here. So you may remember from the previous step, so we're just going to follow what we did in step 14. That was a 22mm one down through to a ball joint underneath. Like that. With the ball joint underneath. We then need to put another ball joint over on the other side as well. And I believe that that was a 15mm one over there. One of those, and that went through the outside here. Bit of thread lock. And the only difference this has got is it doesn't have the cage, the sort of bumper system. This is the rear. Okay, so now we've got those in place, we can tighten those up. So go back. Okay, and then we need to link the linking rod across. That needs to go across. And then once that's on, there's these 2 other ones with the nylons. Whether are they for are they? Oh, there were the other 2 that go in here. There we are. And then last but not least, we've got to clip in this bar. There we go. So that's now the rear axle. That's all on there and ready. And wow, that's some engineering. Right, so that's step 15 completed, and we've put the additional servo on here. And I had to quickly change this back over to the standard servo mount, servo saver. Okay, right, step 15 completed.